welcome. If you are just joining us from whatever part of the world you are joining us from, please do well to share in the comment section. Welcome to WAMIDO. If this is your first time, let us know in the comment section, and welcome to the family. If you have been here before, you already know how we do it, right? WAMIDO is a free mentorship family for young Nigerians aged 14 to 40. And we are not a webinar. We are not motivating you either. We are here to answer real questions and attempt to give solutions to the questions bothering your heart. Every Saturday, we bring someone into this room who has lived something and have something that is worth learning from. And tonight, we are having a conversation that most professional spaces completely avoid. And before we do, let's watch this video about God's gift and how she has navigated this challenge we can all relate to in Nigeria. Do stay with us.
Meet God's gift. God's gift is a young, agile Nigerian. Most mornings, she's already awake before 6 a.m. There's always something she's trying to sort out. Even on quiet days, her mind is working. God's gift is a brilliant university graduate. She jumps from one YouTube channel to another, and her LinkedIn profile is a graveyard of unpaid certifications. She has the fire, but she's currently using it to cook Indomie at 2 a.m. because she feels confused, not because she doesn't want to try. She's just tired of guessing. She still wakes up early, helps her mom, checks her phone, job posts, courses, threads, advice everywhere. Everybody is saying something. Learn tech. No, tech is full. Go into AI. But how? Just start, you'll figure it out. Figure it out how? God's gift actually tried. Late nights, data, design, certificates plenty. Direction? Not so much. Anytime she asks questions, the answers are always the same. Just be consistent. Keep applying. God's gift doesn't need motivation. She needs sense. She's not asking for shortcuts. She needs someone to say, this is how this industry truly works. These are the standards. This is what you should focus on now. But the people who know are far, or she doesn't know how to reach them. In Nigeria, God's gift isn't alone. Data shows that while 53% of our youth are underemployed, companies are screaming that they can't find employable talent. It's a paradox. God's gift is shouting into a void, and the industry is looking for a signal she doesn't know how to send. Now imagine something different. God's gift finds a space where questions are rightly answered, where preparation comes before opportunity, where effort is seen. At WAMIDO, we don't just give advice, we hand her a map. We put her through 6 weeks of mandatory training to ensure she is ready for the industry truth. We filter the noise so she can become the signal.
God's gift is ready to stop guessing. And maybe God's gift is you. Do you have the fire? Do you have the hunger? Now it's time for the roadmap. Are you a God gift? Join WAMIDO today and let's turn your questions into next steps.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned and joining us tonight. Thank you for giving us. I know how important Saturday night is. You could be hanging out right now. You could be doing just about anything, but you chose to do it with us. And so we are grateful for your time. We are grateful for you joining us, and not only joining us, being present with us in the room, no matter where you are, all around the world. Now, tonight, we are going to be going super deep. We are going to be going super deep, and we will be having conversations that, people don't usually have around work, career, and profession. And that is what we do at WAMIDO. We get to answer those questions that are buried deep on the imagination, buried deep on the assumption. We have a wonderful woman joining us tonight. And the woman joining us tonight has been building quietly, consistently, and with real purpose. She was chosen for this conversation because of something very rare. And she is a woman who has walked through the kind of life transitions that reshape a person. And you did not go quiet. She kept building, she kept showing up, and she turned a story into something that serves other people. And she did it without pretending that the job was easy. Not to mince words tonight, she's exactly the kind of presence Wamido family needs in this room. And our audience watching tonight are young students and professionals trying to build careers, build businesses, build families, build themselves while carrying things that nobody around them is naming out loud: loss, grief, transition. And so these are conversations that we need to name, and they almost never get named. She once wrote on one of her socials that there was a time I didn't know if I would feel like me again. But today I'm here, healing, growing, choosing peace daily. That sentence is going to into a different room full of people who have never had someone say it first. She founded the Eloviano Initiative, a nonprofit for emotional well-being of boys and young men. And she has worked in correctional centers, worked with young men societies, and she's mending fences for broken boys. She has brought out survivors, worked with government, and ensure that we are building the men and the boys into what is needed for the society today. She has shown up at orphanages on Children's Day, not with a post, but in person. Yeah, when it's hard. And she runs House of Elovia, supplying African fabrics to women who wear their identity with pride. And she is the founder of Pataki Woman, a brand built on one belief that every woman is significant, valuable, and worthy of being seen. With over 69,000 people followers on Facebook alone, and not because of the viral moment, but because every time she shows up, she brings something real. And she has built all of this while living a real life, carrying the real weight, the weight she has not spoken about in publicly until tonight. Her name is Eloviano Abolarin. And I'm glad that she's so here. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. Hello, Viano. Please say hi to our wonderful Wamido community that has been so eager and expecting to see you. And thank you so much because
Hello.
you said yes. I'm so glad you said yes. All right.
Hello, Wamido family.
Yeah, that is somebody that I can attest to a loyalty and friendship. I've seen her in states that could have broken her down. And yes, she did rise up with strength. And she's here to discourse conversations that usually we don't talk about, right? And behind, yeah. So tonight we want to talk about behind every active LinkedIn profile, every business running and functioning, every functioning career too. There is a person who has been through something, and that something does not disappear because the profile looks good on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you always get to see. I love LinkedIn. I'm so active on LinkedIn. And I know you, my friend, too, are, right? But we get to see the polished stuff. And most of the time is the polish, it's not really the polished stuff that has brought us into that room, right? Where we are making its way. And this section tonight is about what grief and loss and transition actually do to a person's professional identity. And really, why nobody around us is actually talking about it. Now, let me get straight into it tonight. Behind every polished LinkedIn profile, like I mentioned, is a person who has been through something. And tonight we are naming that. Grief does not clock out when you log in. A research by Mary Frances O'Connor, published in Nature's Review, Neuroscience, shows that bereavement physically rewires the brain's reward system. Physically rewires the brain reward systems that drive motivation and decision making at work. Also, there is a short time studies in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology link acute grief to about 37% drop in cognitive performance. People most of the time don't get to know how loss affects the decision you make as a professional in your career, right? Even how it affects the brain. They feel that, oh, grief is just transitional, loss is transitional, and then you will get over it with time. You've heard people talk about it, but little do we know that subtly there have been footprints even left in our DNA, left in our brains. And this has been proven with research. Long time unprocessed loss correlates with career stagnation, disengagement, and identity fragmentation. That's what Bridge a man has identified in his recent research. And we are going to be talking about all of this tonight. Please tighten your seatbelt and make sure that you follow this conversation. I know you're wondering, so how does all this tie into career? We are going to find out. We are going to find out. Like I mentioned, we've experienced, according to research, that career stagnation, disengagement, identity fragmentation, has been linked to unprocessed loss, grief. We're going to be starting out with defining what grief is, what loss is. Might not necessarily account to the death of a person. Backstage with Eloviano, we were trying to define what grief is, right? And we were saying grief comes in so many shapes and forms. Even though the highest of it all is a loss of a human, right? And so every other thing, there is this quote that says, when there is life, there is hope. Yes, very true. And so what if we actually lost that life? And that is a form of the highest grief. But grief too can occur in spaces like financial loss, relationship loss. It can even be between a boss and a co-worker. It can be between long-term friends. It can be between romantic relationships. But all this conversation has never been heard before because we do not name them. I am taking my time and laying this foundation with my audience tonight because I know Eloviano has a lot to talk to us about, right, tonight, about our own journey and how it has brought us into a space of resilience and how she's still working through it. Really, yet we've kept optimizing our bowels while quietly carrying that weight. This series wants to close that gap between what your profile says and what your body remembers, literally. You deserve an honest conversation. So let's have that conversation tonight. So drop in the comment section what describes where you are right now. I will be going through the comment section and I will want to resonate with some of us. Where are you right now? Just one word: happy, thinking, unsure, sad. Pulling together, I think that's more than one word, but just one word. And two words are permitted. You can do a phrase, it's fine. A clause, rather, it's fine too. So, tonight, we are ready. We want to talk about what nobody in your professional network is saying out loud. We are opening up this first circle with an honest question. When life disrupts us, loss, transition, grief, the undoing of who we thought we are, what actually happens to our professional drive? What have what actually happens to our professional drive? And this question is to you now, Eloviano. You know, you have built Pataki Woman,
Okay.
Viano, the Elovia Initiative, pardon me, the House of Elovia,
Mm-hmm.
while
Mm-hmm.
navigating life as a mother, as a wife, as a woman of faith, and
Mm-hmm.
someone who has clearly walked through some real transitions. Eloviano, I don't want the version of the story that ends with, and I learned so much. I want that version that nobody sees. What were you actually
Mm.
carrying while you were building? This is where you tell us your story.
Okay. I really want to appreciate the WAMIDO network for bringing me on board to share my story, share my experience, and how I have been able to overcome all of these challenges and stand while I am still stand while building myself and also raising my kids. So I would say a lot of times when people they assume that you are building from a place of strength. You know, we all see the old LinkedIn profile and we assume that everybody coming on board, coming right there, you know, we are all glammed up, the old photo shoots, we are all perfect. We come on LinkedIn showing up perfectly. And you know, people just assume that we are showing up from a place of strength. But for me, a lot of what I've built came from places of uncertainty, you know, grief, responsibility, and trying to rediscover myself. And so I was carrying the weight of a mother. I was carrying, you know, trying to raise my children. The fact that I always remember that, oh, I have kids. I can't be here. I can't stand here. Who is going to come to help me? You know, we all have challenges as much as we have family and friends around who care so much about us. But people move on easily. You'll be shocked at how maybe at that point when I lost my dear husband, you know, there was a lot of crowd. You know, people kept coming because he was a good man. People kept coming, you know, and you would think maybe the old visiting coming, people coming with gifts and all that is going to stay for a while. But the moment is laid to the 6 feet down the ground, you are no longer seeing anybody. You are left with yourself and whoever you have with you. So at that point, those were days I built because I was inspired, and there were days I built because stopping was not an option. Why should I stop when I have kids? Why should I stop? And so it wasn't easy for me to start building. At that point, I already had Elovia Initiative, and I know that Elovia Initiative was born out of passion for the boy child. I discovered that, oh, we talk more about the girl child. Well, you know, the girl child also needs protection from the boy child. So if you are not raising responsible and good men who are going to take care of the girl child, then at the end of the day, whatever we are putting into the girl child, it's more like we are pouring into empty baskets when we have boys who will still come to them. And so it's one of the reasons why I built Elovia Initiative. It's a boy child initiative, you know, raising responsible and empowered men. And so I had to put a stop to that because I know that is not going to bring me that is not going to bring food on my table because I was putting in into that. It's a non-governmental organization. So it's in that moment I built Pataki Woman. I started talking to myself that, one day I slept and I just remembered that name. I'm not a Yoruba person, but I married into the Yoruba community, and that name came to my mouth, to my heart. Like I am important, irrespective of what you're going through, you are important. And I said, oh, what's the meaning of importance? Like pataki. And I looked for that word, and that word talks that you are pataki woman, an important, a significant person. You have a significant personality. You can do this. If if because nobody is going to come to help you, and so you are important. So And I started reading stories. At that point, there's this algorithm people talk about. The moment you are thinking about something, maybe you are thinking about buying a blender. At
Yeah.
that point, blenders start coming to your screen. So at
Yes.
that point of my grief, at that point of my loss, I started seeing so many stories about widows, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, so I started seeing deep stories about widows who are suffering, widows who cannot go back to work, widows who have been laid off work, widows who have been tortured by their in-laws and all of that. And it's one of the reasons why that name got I received that name in my spirit from in my place of thinking, in my place of trying to revive, bring back myself. Nobody is going to, as much as you go through therapy, you need to heal and all that, but beyond therapy, you still need your subconsciousness to bring you back. You still need to bring yourself back, because you need to come back to reality. Be- because bills need to be paid. You need to come back to reality because you have a future. You need to be somebody. You can't be there. You can't be on that in that valley. You can't be in that place and you expect change to come. Change cannot come if you are still in that place of tears. You are still wallowing in your, yeah, loss can be very painful. Loss, nobody can express you, nobody can help you express it. Nobody can help you feel it. You are the only one feeling it. You know where it hurts. You know where it pinches you. So at that point, I stood up and I said, no, if I am going to be a voice, then I need to be a voice to other women who are going through this, because I know me going through this is for a reason. It's for a time as this. So in conclusion, I have I have built all the Pataki woman in a place of uncertainty, grave, and responsibility, trying to rediscover myself. So it's in my place of trying to rediscover myself and also being help to other women. That's where the Pataki woman came about.
Thank you so much, Eloviano. I know that I'm taking you to a place where you literally tread lightly, and I appreciate you
Mm,
stretching out your hand of love to walk us through this journey. And so I have been privy to know the story and the grief process, the loss process. My question now is, before um the story happened, right? You were something, especially in your career. You have been doing
mhm,
you have created the Elovia initiative, and a couple of times you've had audiences to share this initiative with, to millions of viewers that have been listening. And so this is not a small brand that you've curated prior to it, and that means that you've
mhm,
invested a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of
mhm,
effort in different capacities, be it financially, be it mentally, into becoming who you are developing. And I believe so much that, you were not thinking that this initiative was going to die anytime soon, or you're going to put it aside anytime
mhm,
soon. But this
mhm,
happened. Can you take the story from what actually happened, so that people will, because we have so many people looking and watching us, looking up to this initiative to answer this question, but they need to know where you are coming from. How we are not putting a scale to loss right now. Loss can
mhm,
be in different
mhm,
shape or form, but we want to give our audience and our family an idea of how deep it took you in, and how you
mhm,
have continued in that journey of where you fell into, because you were particularly on this trajectory of, oh, excitement, these things are picking up. You have a certain number of volunteers now in the Elovia initiative. You have some wonderful community initiative you have started off, right? Your careers picked up
mhm,
from, And then suddenly this happened. Because right now we have people that are watching us. Like I said, they have experienced loss in different forms. So can you take your story from how it happened and what actually happened? And then how you came out of that trajectory. You have mentioned your children is number one motivation. What are the other things, especially
Mm,
particular to your career, that motivated you to walk through, these times?
mm. Okay. I think one of the hardest things about grief or major life transition is that they don't just affect your emotions; they affect your identity.
Mm,
They affect you start questioning everything about your life. You start questioning your dreams. You start questioning your confidence. You start questioning your purpose. The things that excite you no longer feel the same. Even work changes because you are no longer the same person who started the journey.
mm,
And so at that point, I remember vividly when the whole thing happened and we were already planning a back to school.
mm,
Believe you me, while in my morning state, this is just 3 days after the incident, and we needed to pay 25 student school fees. I had the money in the NGO account, and I was in between. I could decide not to sponsor those kids anymore. Like, life has just happened to me. I am in my reality. I am facing reality right now. But I didn't do that because those those are my priority at that point. I know a life was lost, but they are the future of tomorrow,
mm,
and we have promised them a future. I still have, and my team, I called them together and I said we won't be going to the school, but we would send, the money to the school proprietor. And they were all shocked and they were surprised, like, are you sure you're going to do this? I said, yes, we are going to do this because we have promised them. Because if we don't do it, their sweat, their tears is on our head, is on my head, because I have the money. It's not like I don't have the money. So what do I want to do with the money? In as much as I needed that money at that point, it is not for me, it is for them. And that's after the third day, the money was transferred to them. And till tomorrow, those parents, when they heard, it took them months when they heard what happened. you know I remember two parents came bearing gifts, like, oh, so this happened to you and you were still able to help, because the fee was for their old term. So now imagine not paying those fees.
mm,
Those children wouldn't go to school for a year because they have been promised. So that fee was for a whole year, not even for a term. It was for the three terms, and we did it. And those parents are forever grateful for it. So, at we go through grief in different level, but I tell you the truth, you would it's a place where you have to question who you are again, because at that point you are shattered. You are seeing yourself as, like, why am I in existence? What has just happened to me? Like, because at that point maybe you you have lived your life on this person. You have a future together. You have built dreams together, and you know that in 10 years, in 15 years from now, you have where you ought to have been. And so you are imagining yourself without this person. How am I going to push my dream? How am I going to go further? So at that point, there is no there you no longer have identity, because all of you is has revolved around this person. Just imagining you losing, you're about going into Harvard, or you want to go into a university, and you lose your dad. Who is going to pay your school fees? Who is going to fund your education? And you are losing that man at that point. Then you are shattered. So at that point, losing a spouse whom you have kids together with, at that point you are looking at those kids and you're wondering, where am I going to start from? And you are both babies, you are toddlers. And so I'm looking at them and like, we have a long way to go, my dears.
mm,
And so I have learned that finding myself again doesn't mean becoming who I used to be. I am no longer the person I used to be. As much as I am still Eloviano Abolarin, yeah, but I am no longer in that place. So I needed to re-strategize.
mm,
And so when you're going through grief, you're going through loss, you are no longer the same because you just lost your father, you just lost your mother. Who is your sponsor? Who is your help? Who is your motivator? You know, at that point, you need to re-strategize and look for another person that is going to replace them. If nobody is going to replace them, then you need to create that person inside of you.
mm,
You need to create that mentor, that provider. You need to
mm,
create, because except you don't have a place to be, except you don't want to finish school, or except you want to join them where they have gone, which is not easy. I've never seen anyone who jump into the grave and say, oh, I want to follow. No,
mm,
I've never seen. So at that point, even while in your grief, you would think about your life again.
mm.
But the truth is, you are no longer who you used to be. You are no longer in that place. So I was no longer the person I used to be. I needed to recreate myself to be a better person, to be a better person for myself, for the future that I'm looking at, to be a better person for the future of the kids I want to help, to be a better person for the future of the women I want to empower. And so let me just say, I recreated myself.
Hmm.
I had to recreate myself. I had to bring myself into the reality that I am now in. So that's the way I was able to. So my motivation came from the women I saw whose story touched me deeper than mine. I've seen terrible stories of widows, and I cry for them. I've seen terrible stories of widowers, like because we have widowers too, and I cried for them. So those were at that point, those were my motivation, and the kids I hope to help in future. Those were aside my children. Those people, it is part of me. It is what I love to do. So those were people who helped me recreate myself, who helped me push further. Like, yes, you can do this. You are capable of doing this. So thank
Thank you
you.
so much. I am glad we are going deep. And we're not just going deep for the reason of just hearing gist. It is for us to take cues in our professional journeys and know that life will
Mm,
hand you some unexpected turns. Nobody ever prays for grief.
mhm,
Nobody ever prays for you
mhm.
investing or
For
saving
love.
so much and then you suddenly lose all your life savings. Yes, those are extremely
Mhm,
deep losses. Nobody has ever, in your own case, your husband just died after literally having a baby of less than a month.
2 weeks
Just
after.
2 weeks
Two
after.
weeks.
2 weeks
Mm,
after your second child, and your first child was still a toddler.
mm,
Having given birth to a baby, you are still
mm,
you are still literally trying to
mm.
keep your eyes open.
Going through postpartum.
You are still literally trying to keep your eyes opened, and that
Mhm.
happened. Oh my God, how did you breathe?
I that question, someone once asked me that question, and truthfully, I couldn't really answer the question because at that point, I looked at him like, how did you grieve having a 2 weeks old, having a 3-year old, and all of this happened, and I was numb. Like, I, how I did it, I don't know, but I know I had I had support system. I had people who stood with me. For example, if I didn't have a mom, I know we are live right now, and I know it's not something I am supposed to say. Normally when you're going through postpartum, it's a terrible state for most women going through. We've seen different cases of women who are going through postpartum, and we've seen what they've done.
Mm.
At that point, there was a particular day I took my son. I think he was jumping up, jumping on the bed, and I said, "Stop jumping on the bed! Stop jumping on the bed!" And he's a toddler; he doesn't even know what is happening. And the moment I grabbed him, it it took my mom to ungrab what I grabbed,
Mm.
because I was going through a lot, and I was going through postpartum. I have a baby crying, wanting me to breastfeed. It wasn't easy. I will tell you the truth. It was a place. I was in darkness. I wasn't seeing. I remember there was a particular time I called a friend, and she said, Eloviano, I have a playlist for you, on Spotify. I would like to send it to you so you could listen to it. And I told her it's fine, you can send it. And I listened to it like once or twice. I kept it. It helped a little, but that wasn't what I needed. It was I just wanted to unhear or unsee what just happened. I wasn't looking for somebody to come and tell me story about, oh, we are sorry. I just wanted to wake up and say, oh, it was April Fool. Oh, it was a lie, a mistaken identity. Oh, your person is here. And so it wasn't easy. I don't know how to explain it, but it's not a place you want to be. Going through postpartum, you have a toddler. Maybe if I don't have a toddler, it would have been better. But having a toddler and a baby, it was hell.
2 weeks, baby.
Oh, it was hell. So I didn't know how I survived that, but I thank God for community of people around me who helped me, who were able to help me go through therapy at that point. I went through therapy, even though therapy it's expensive now, but I was able to go through 3 to 4, 5 sessions, and I tell you, it was a good one. And with the help of people around, they were able to help me manage my anger. They were able to help me manage all my. I was having triggers, like when you talk to me, like I spark up, like I just have triggers every now and then. So they were able to calm. They were there to calm my nerves, even when I'm supposed to spark or shout or scream. And so I would say I had community of people, of good people around me, and my family didn't leave me. And so let me just say, two significant people did it for me: community of friends and my family. So
Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, you know, there is really, you have said it, there is really nothing that could replace what has been lost. But do you think that if you had been in a workplace or a work setting, do you think that any good thing could have been done in a professional setting? So, say an example, maybe you work in a particular office or a workspace, I mean, an organization, and at that time, could there be anything that could have been done for you by the organization to help ease this period, especially to help hold up your career? Yeah, your career might be on hold at that time, but to help hold it in place, pending the time when you are strong enough, no matter how long the time, you are strong enough to say, okay, I'm ready to include this back in my identity. You mentioned that you redefined yourself. I've been able to. During my recap, I'm going to talk about some very salient points. You said you had to make a choice, right? So in this process, you have to make a choice. What do you want to do? What do you want to do at this time? Is it you just still sit down, or however you want, or however choice you want, whatever choice you want to make, rather, you will make a choice, you redefine yourself. And so my question to you now is there anything that could have been done in by professional settings, like maybe an organization, your work organization, that could have helped, in this process? Can you think of any?
Okay, so because I have been an entrepreneur all my life, but I would say that I was sometimes in a community of sisterhood, and that was um, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and we had fellow widows who were in the workplace.
Mm,
These widows were not entrepreneurs; they were in the workplace, and they shared their experiences. That was when I knew that there are levels to grief, and there are levels to loss. And one shared our own experience. She worked in one of the multinationals. I don't want to mention their name. And she said they helped her with 1 month therapy session because she is one of their top officials. And she said something that because she was in the at the top, she got those benefits. That because someone who something like that happened to, but not in her own level, didn't get something like that. She lost her job. But after her own therapy, after 1 month of therapy, the therapy didn't work. The company could no longer sustain her. They waited for her the second month, they waited for her the third month, they paid her first salary, her second month salary, by the third month salary, they laid her off because she could no longer be the person that used to occupy that office. She was no longer that person they used to see, that energetic, that vibrant woman that comes to the office, in the boardroom and all of that. She was laid off after 3 months, and that is because she had, like, she was at the managerial level. And she said, for some who are not at the managerial level, they don't even get the opportunity of 3 months salary. If you cannot grieve within the space of 30 days, then you are laid off.
mm,
So I had the opportunity to grieve for almost a year before coming back into business because I have the opportunity to. But a lot of people, and that is the way it is. It is a 30 days. If you cannot grieve within the space of 30 days, then someone else is waiting. They are on queue to occupy your space because the company needs to move on. They need to make money. They need to pay bills. So they will not wait for you to come back fully into yourself. And even when you come back fully into yourself, if you are not active, if you are not productive, they give you a warning sign. Like, let us start getting emails of, you need to position yourself, you need to do this, you need to do that. And after a while, you get fired.
mm,
So that's the reality of we in Nigeria. You don't get past 30 days. So it was in that sisterhood fellowship I got to know that you don't get past 30 days. So I think that's the reality. But if you're an entrepreneur, well, you can afford to stay longer as much as you are able to. But for someone in the workplace, I think we also need to face the reality. If I have a company and I have 2 to 3 persons who is going through loss, I need to we need to balance it. Are you going to do this, or are you going to be here, or you want to be here? In as much as we're giving you 30 days to rethink, to mourn, to be with yourself, after the 30 days, what is next? What are you bringing to the table? Because you are also being paid.
Mm.
And so I think so that's the reality we have in Nigeria currently. You don't grieve more than 30 days. You have to go back to work.
Thank you so much for that view. And I think it's a very tough skill to balance, right? Because
Mhm.
an
It
organization,
is.
especially, they will say that they are not running on charity. You are being employed for a certain purpose to perform some certain tasks. And if you cannot,
Mhm.
in a certain period of time, you have to excuse. I don't think the challenge is
Mhm.
about you excusing because you not performing is not intentional, right? You are in this space of mind.
Yeah.
This is just my take. You're in this
Mm.
space of mind that cannot cope with the different things going through your mind at that time, right? But my own
Mm.
concern is, organization creating avenue, creating platforms to help their employees to walk through that
Mhm.
process of grief. What I mean by this is that, the Nigerian professional culture does not really give people a framework for grief, right? You are expected to keep performing and to keep showing up, keep being productive.
Showing up.
What did that expectation, they just want it that way. And it is understandable, like I said before. But is there a framework they can create, even outside of work, to accommodate people in this space, in this time, or in this period of their career? You mentioned therapy, right? They can only do it for 1 month, which is exceptionally short, in my own opinion. Short, in my own
Mm.
opinion, for people to grieve, especially to people that are close to them, right? Of course, there are exceptions to these things. You don't say, "Oh, my great grandfather died, and I'm grieving, and and I'm grieving for a year." Well, you get what I'm saying. You might be close to your grandfather, but it's
Mhm.
it's it's really relative, right? But
It's
we
a
can
distance.
talk about, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
so, but we can't talk about parents. We can't talk about spouses,
Spouses.
right? Even parents is quite relative. If your dad is already 120 years, right? That is relatively
Yeah.
old age to retire and be with the Lord.
Old age.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
people that, especially in your own case, you just got married, you just gave birth, right? 2 weeks after, and it happened, and people like that have been thrown under the bus by organizations that they have given their time to, organizations that they are giving their life, literally life to. They're giving their all. They're giving their all, and it is now time for them to
Yes.
show up for,
Yes.
and they just couldn't hold up for more than 30 days. I think this is something that we need to
Mm.
consider. This is something that we need to speak about and speak on and carry a conversation into the boardrooms, the places where these decisions are
Mm.
being made. There can be partnerships. The way organizations run HMOs, right? There can be a package for these two where
Mhm.
they can cover for it for at least 6 months, at least a year. Even though if
Mhm.
you don't get to
Yeah.
work with the organization anymore, even if they have to excuse you, but they should still take care of
Mm.
this good, this therapy, extend a hand of care, and fellowship
Yeah.
and support to you, especially in your career. Obviously, people, this can be relational or directly proportional to the years you have worked with them and invested with them, which is arguable
Mhm.
because we have to see from both lenses. We have to see from the lens of the organization. I also see from the lens of the person that is grieving or
And also.
the employee, right? Have
Mhm.
a balanced scale. I'm not against you having a direct proportion to the number of years you have worked with people, because you cannot expect the same investment from a managerial level to somebody they just employed
Mhm.
1 or 2 years ago.
Employed.
But at the same time, it does not mean that you have a cap of 30 days, to help someone that is grieving, somebody that has invested so much in the organization, this is a good call out, that we can actually do better as humans. There are ways to this thing if
Mhm.
organizations are actually invested. I'm sure that we have good organizations out there
Mm.
that are doing much more better, but I can say that
Better. Mm-hmm.
very few. And so we want to get to that point where we can have organizations that are doing better to be much more than organizations that are doing way less, to help people
Mm.
transit in this period in their career.
Mm.
We spend a lot of time in our careers, you know. We spend a lot of time interacting with our careers. That is where we go to work. For example, people that are doing 9 to 5. For entrepreneurs like you don't even have closing time. Once you go, just get that text message, even if it's in the middle of the night, you have jump up.
Yeah, responding. Mm-hmm.
I have this, I have that, right? And so, if people have invested so much in helping your organizations to grow, I think we deem it fit to also help them to help transition and help them through this process. And so we will take a quick pause and a quick break, because I know we have said a lot that we need to take in. And so we're going to talk about what WAMIDO does here, because I think we've been able to throw out some questions, not only to ourselves tonight, right? But to people in different organization stratas that could actually pull a weight, in bringing this consideration of how do we take care of our professionals while going through grief and losses. And then when we come back from our very short break, we're going to be talking about how you you continue to navigate this process of a loss and how it relates to your career. You said something very important about redefining yourself. So we're going to get to the how shortly after, because I know so many of us are wondering, so this has happened, I didn't ask for it, but it happened, right? Now you said I should
Mm.
redefine myself. Now I've accepted I'm going to redefine myself, because I just have to make that choice. So far I have decided, you said it,
Mm.
so far you have decided to continue living. You did not jump into the six. So far you
Mm-hmm.
said, oh, I'm not going to commit suicide because I lost all of my life savings for the past 20 years. You said, oh, I'm still
Savings, yeah.
continue living.
Mm.
You've made that choice. So the following choice, or automatic choice, is how do I redefine myself? And so Eloviano will be sharing with us
Absolutely.
after this short break on how do I get to redefine myself. So stay tuned with us, and then we will be right back.
Meet God's Gift. God's Gift is a young, agile Nigerian. Most mornings, she's already awake before 6 a.m. There's always something she's trying to sort out. Meet God's Gift. God's Gift is a young, agile Nigerian. Most mornings, she's already awake before 6 a.m. There's always something she's trying to sort out. Even on quiet days, her mind is working. God's Gift is a brilliant university graduate. She jumps from one YouTube channel to another, and her LinkedIn profile is a graveyard of unpaid certifications. She has the fire, but she's currently using it to cook Indomie at 2 a.m. because she feels confused, not because she doesn't want to try. She's just tired of guessing. She still wakes up early, helps her mom, checks her phone, job posts, courses, threads, advice everywhere. Everybody is saying something. Learn tech. No, tech is full. Go into AI. But how? Just start, you'll figure it out. Figure it out how? God's Gift actually tried. Late nights, data, design, certificates plenty. Direction? Not so much. Anytime she asks questions, the answers are always the same. Just be consistent. Keep applying. God's Gift doesn't need motivation. She needs sense. She's not asking for shortcuts. She needs someone to say, this is how this industry truly works. These are the standards. This is what you should focus on now. But the people who know are far, or she doesn't know how to reach them. In Nigeria, God's Gift isn't alone. Data shows that while 53% of our youth are underemployed, companies are screaming that they can't find employable talent. It's a paradox. God's gift is shouting into a void, and the industry is looking for a signal she doesn't know how to send. Now imagine something different. God's gift finds a space where questions are rightly answered, where preparation comes before opportunity, where effort is seen. At WAMIDO, we don't just give advice, we hand her a map. We put her through 6 weeks of mandatory training to ensure she is ready for the industry truth. We filter the noise so she can become the signal.
God's gift is ready to stop guessing. And maybe God's gift is you. Do you have the fire? Do you have the hunger? Now it's time for the roadmap. Are you a God gift? Join WAMIDO today and let's turn your questions into next steps.
Thank you so much. If you have waited till this time to continue this conversation with us, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. But I think a much more important thing is that you are helping us carry the weight of these questions right into the right quarters, into the right rooms where we can start discussions about it, and most importantly start sparking changes that is necessary in our career roadmap, especially in Nigeria, in Africa, and maybe then in the whole world. And so tonight we've been having a wonderful conversation with Miss Eloviano, my very dear strong woman who has depicted strength and most importantly in the place of weakness. And showing weakness, it's actually a strength. And she has taken us through a journey, well, a little bit of a journey, and what repositioning our mindset, making the right choice, right, redefining ourselves, and most importantly, evolving through the process of loss. And then we said that we're going to be talking about the second circle, how you get to actually redefine yourself, because I know it is a process. And so if you are wondering, I love these conversations we've been having tonight. How do I join this community, right? Our website will be dropped into the chat, the YouTube link, comment section. You can also go through our YouTube description. You are going to see it right there, our website link for more information, how to join this community. If you want mentorship, which is what WAMIDO is going to be providing for young professionals or mid-level professionals that are transiting between one career to another, because we all know technology and AI is disrupting things. And you're thinking, oh, how do I change? How do I pivot? But where do I start from actually? And that is the right question. So we want to bring you into a room where you ask the right questions and connect you to the people that you will ask those questions, those really right good questions. And most importantly, where they get to open the back door for you and you get to see how things really, really work in their space. And so we are going to be starting off with a mentorship program in the second half of 2026. But before we jump into the mentorship program, connecting mentees with mentors, we are going to be undergoing mandatory mentorship training for 6 weeks, because it takes a lot of skill to navigate and make good use of a mentorship relationship. And so it's very, very important that you learn how to be mentored. And so after undergoing that 6 weeks mentorship, then we are going to be linking you to various mentors that are in our WAMIDO ecosystem, where you get to be mentored by them. And so if you want to find out more information about how all this happens, click on the website link in our description. It has also been dropped in the comment section of this live chat. And so please still stay tuned with us. We still have many very exciting discussions to have tonight. And so, Eloviano, we've talked about the impact of work or workplace and how this very, very weak framework, of support to professionals during the process of loss, how these impacts, how well they can grieve. Some people even just carry all the baggage, they've not even had time to really grieve, come to terms with it, and they just come into workspace and they become a shadow of themselves, right? And really, all this is not, they never asked for it. They never asked to experience loss. They never asked to be in that current shoe that they were in. But here it is, they found themselves there. And we've talked about the importance of organizations, looking into how they can help give a soft landing to career professionals that have actually even invested so much into the organization, right, in the long run. And so now, to the very important part of this conversation, and that is redefining yourself. How do
Mm.
you get to redefine yourself? How do you get to rebuild yourself? Because this is who you are. This is you. This is your adult life. Be it mid adult life or the older part. This is who you are. And you've invested a lot of time. How do I get to do this all over again?
Okay, so one of the biggest challenge we have in our society is that we celebrate resilience, you
Yeah.
know, but don't always create space for people to be human. There is one slogan we use for Elovia initiative. We usually say human human before gender, meaning we have to allow people to be human before saying, oh, this person is a female, this person, we just have to be compassionate to human. We don't have to discriminate that this person is male, this person is female, because they all have blood running through their veins. And so we don't celebrate people to be humans. Like we have been taught to stay strong, to keep moving, to smile, to have faith, to work harder. And the social media space is not even making things easier. And one truth before I move into that question is one truth I want young people to learn is that carrying something heavy doesn't mean you are failing. you know Carrying something heavy in your heart, like you are thinking of way forward, it doesn't mean you are failing. The fact that you are going through trauma, the fact that you are going through whatever you're going through, you are not failing. Something Asking for help doesn't also mean you are weak. You are not weak, you are just being human. Resting is not also laziness. The fact that you want to rest does not mean you are lazy. So we need to understand these three things, that the fact that you want to rest is good, just the way they tell us to sleep 8 hours. Resting is not laziness, and asking for help is not weakness. So I would say that how I have been able to redefine myself is through my faith. Um, I'm not going to is it what English will I use there now? I'm not going to sugarcoat that. You know, my faith has really helped me at this point of my life, and it has not been an easy journey. And one other thing that has helped me push forward are my kids. I am not going to deny that. Left for me, if you're a loner, maybe you are still single, if you are going through grief, you might just still think like, oh, nobody's depending on me. I have two beautiful kids who are depending on me, who are seeing me as their role model. And so I need to be very, very active and responsible. So being a mother to these wonderful kids changed me. You know, there are days I want to sleep, I want to still lie down. But then when I think about them, I rise up, I wake up, and I begin to put one or two things together, like, oh, so what am I meant to do today? As much as I still forget one or two things. My notepads are filled up with so many daily activities. I have so many to do lists, you know, and those are my motivation. So one thing I would also say is you need to have a motivation. Why are you living? Since you are not the one who died, why are you living? So that's another question you need to ask yourself. Are you living for yourself, or you are living for the future you want the world to see? So if you can answer that question, I think you would redefine yourself. Yeah, you would find a way to become better, even though it might not be easy. Rising up again, it won't be easy, because that's another motivation on its own. So you must find a reason to rise. If there's no reason backing your rising, then you would always fall. And so because I have reason to rise, I have reason to push forward. I would refuse to back down. Because if I back down, then I have failed. I have failed them, and I have failed the kids I am looking forward to help. So one thing I'm going to tell everyone who is listening tonight is you must have a motivational factor. You must have something who is pushing you. You must have a reason for a push. If you don't have something that is pushing you, you would fall. You can't rise. You can't rise from that place. So I would say my kids are my own motivation. My kids gave me the strength. They gave me that push to want to move forward. Like I can't be in this place. I can't be found here. So a lot of times the way I show up sometimes, I have a female child. I can't show up like a non-entity. I need to show up well. So because she's a lady, she's going to grow up to become a fine lady. She's going to grow up to become a fine woman. So who is she going to see? She needs to see me. We live together. She needs to see me as a role model. So what is she going to see? Is she going to see a failed, a dirty mother? So those are my motivation. So I wake up every day to become better. I wake up every day to become a clearer. I am not where I am, where I want to be, but I am getting better by the day. I tell you the truth. I am getting better by the day, and I know it will always get better because I see reason every day to become better. So if you don't see a reason to be better, you will not be better. There must be a motivation. There must be something pushing you. So if you are going through loss or grief or something, maybe you invested so much in a particular trade and they all went down the drain. There was a reason why you went for that trade. There was a reason why you invested. So you will pick up that reason again and start investing again. You are not going to sit down there and cry over that loss, because crying over that loss will not bring that loss back. It won't bring back that money. It won't bring that back that person. So the reason why you were doing it in the first place, you must revive it. You must bring it back. So that is going to be your push again. Because if you don't push, you will be there. Nobody is going to come to push you. That is life. We are all going through a lot. In this my moment, I later discovered two of my friends who went through surgery. They never say, but it was in that moment they shared their journey with me. And I wept. Like, people are going through a lot. Yours might be different. They had their own covered with clothes, but mine was not covered with clothes. So we are all grieving. We are all going through one loss or the other. I had one who went through breast surgery. So ours was covered with clothes, but she's going through the loss of her left breast. So we must all pick up. You must have a motivation. You must have a reason to pick yourself up. Don't you want to eat? You want to eat. You want to feed. You want to live good. So that is a motivation. The fact that you want to eat and nobody is going to fund that feeding for you, it's a motivation to rise, to walk, to be better. So basically, my motivation to redefine myself are my kids, because I don't want them to see another person as their mentor. I want them to see me first as their mentor. Oh, I see my mom. Let them talk about me. When they talk about people, I want them to talk about me and say, oh, my mom did this, my mom did that. Let them see, you know, a powerful woman out there doing, in as much as I cry under my pillow, or there are days where I still hold my pillows, but I want them to see that in whatever situation you find yourself, you can still rise. No matter how many times you fall, you can still do it. So they are my motivation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. In case you're wondering, this is not a technical glitch and this is not internet. I am just being quiet so that all this will sink in. We need to take all this in and see life as yes, you spoke about so many things, but at this point, at this juncture where we start rounding off this conversation for tonight and pick up from where we stop tonight, next week, Saturday, I want us to start thinking about empathy in the place of
Mm,
work,
mm,
empathy in our careers journey, not seeing
mm,
everything as a means of competition, even though
mm.
you come, you show up, you give your best, but do that from a place of good precedence. Do that from a
Intention.
place of not, oh, I'm going to outshow you and outshine you, because that is
Mm,
where office beef comes in. That is where
mm,
lack of empathy starts showing up. You know, as a manager, as someone that is working under someone, you know, at whatever level of strata that you are in, I think we just have to remind ourselves that we are all still human. We are all still human.
yes.
After the
Yeah.
high expectations of keep performing, keep showing up, being productive, whatever it is, you know, the cost of expectation is towards us, you know, personally. In the process, in the process of grief, we should still remember that we are all humans. We should still
Mm,
extend the hand of kindness
intention.
every time
Yes. Yes.
in our professional circles, you know, in our careers. And so I would want to ask you one very last question, right?
Mm,
To people that are watching us right now, there is a cost to everything. You have talked about
mm.
redefining yourself, you've talked about making a choice. What did it cost you?
Mm. Oh dear, that's a deep question. ah, ah, mm, mm. Can I really answer that question? It has cost me so much. There's some pain I can't express some pain in as much as I have outgrown the crying phase. There's a level you go through in therapy, and you've outgrown you would outgrow crying and still wailing, but there's still there's a pain you can't say out. Like the pain is there, but you can't express it, but it is there. I don't know how to put that, except you want to rephrase it so I could answer it in a better way. But except you want to
I,
rephrase it so I
I
could.
totally understand you, and I understand how, not like totally understand, I understand how it can be difficult, to
Mhm.
frame some certain expressions and feelings into words. And so, in my
Mhm.
attempt to rephrase, what did it cost you in the process of redefining yourself? In the
Mhm.
process of saying, I choose to stand up, I choose to take Elovia initiative back. I choose to stand up as an entrepreneur back and call my supplier. I choose to not be weak, and
Mhm.
say, I'm just it's at a point in grief, you know, it's been said that the choice day is going to present itself to you. The choice day can come like maybe your son wanted to resume school and you needed to pay school fees. And usually this is the
Mhm.
person that does it, and the person is no longer there. And then the
Mhm.
choice is presenting itself to you that, are you going to stand up and start paying these
Mhm.
bills? Or are you going to
Mhm.
just sit down and still, you know, continue? And, grieving and loss, grieving is not something you just put down. It's still something you carry along with you. But, sometimes you require extra strength to be able to put in, to carry additional baggages. I think we lost R. Let's give her a few minutes. And so while we are waiting for R to join us back, um, we will quickly have a recap of what we have spoken about today. And that is, how do we deal with grief? How do we deal with loss in our professional journey, in our professional and career journey? How do we deal with it in relation to our careers? And so we have tabled a conversation that we really have and that we really discourse out in settings such as this. And that is why WAMIDO is here, to talk about, ask questions about discussions that not usually have, usually surface, And so, we will continue this conversation. Hopefully, she will join us back before we end tonight's conversation. But if she doesn't, we will still continue this conversation next week, Saturday, at the very same time, 8:30 p.m. West African time, or 2:30 p.m. Central time. And we will continue these conversations about how do we progress into redefining ourselves, because it is a journey, and we're going to be defining the phases of this redefinition. So there are several phases to the redefinition, and it is something, while we're still carrying grief, while we're still carrying the loss with us, how do you balance the scale, right? And until you redefine yourself and come into this full-fledged person of who you are, or maybe you never come into this new-fledged person that you are redefining. Maybe you still carry your old self, right? And a little bit of your old self into the new self, a mixture together. How do you manage, and balance these two, three, four, five side of yours in pertaining to your profession? We've had people that have been burned professionally, that have suffered loss professionally. We have people that have invested their organization, or the organization asset gone in a transaction, and they are wondering, how do we do this? We've had people's name being burnt, right? So organizations name being burnt through people, through employees, sabotaged and everything, like pertaining or around that story, that kind of story. And they still, maybe in one way or another, found themselves back, found their way back to create another organization. How do they want to salvage their reputation? How do they want to navigate this loss? These are the kind of conversation we will be having in this section of WAMIDO. And so we will be continuing this conversation next week by God's special grace. Now, I know that you have learned a lot today, and I know that you are looking for the space to ask this kind of section, this kind of questions rather, it necessarily does not have to be about loss. Any other questions that are pertaining to career development, how do you find opportunities? How do you engage with mentors? How do you position yourself? How do you position yourself when you're transiting to get better opportunities? Whatever it is that you are honing or looking forward, aspiring to become in your career journey, we are here to answer those questions. Or better still, create a space where you can ask the right people. And so we have magnanimously created a link with a Google link where you can sign up for our mentorship program, and that you'll find information on how to go about it. So you can click the link that we'll be dropping it in the live chat right now, and also adding into the WAMIDO description. And if you're already in our community, our Telegram community or WhatsApp community, it's up to you. You have taken the very first positive step in the right direction. And I must tell you that you are you have done excellently well for yourself. You have done excellently well for yourself. And so we would love to have feedbacks from you too. So if there are some things that you think that can be done to better create opportunities in the scope of the vision of Wamido, we are all ears. We want to hear you. Join our community and be part of us. Hmm. Tonight has been a heavy night. And I believe that everything pertaining to humans, especially their soul and their emotion, should be taken very, very important. Should be taken very, very serious and be taken very seriously. And we should not make an attempt to brush it aside based on the fact that it is not profiting us, maybe as an organization, or we expect things to hurry along and things should get back in shape. And so this is the conversation we've been having tonight. And I want to thank everyone that has joined us tonight to have this conversation. Like I said, we are going to continue this topic next week. And so if you're thinking, I still have more questions, we have opportunities, to get on with your questions next week. Okay, so I am trying to look at if we have questions from our YouTube chat. If we don't, I will get to see everyone to next week. Rather, I wanted to say tomorrow. I love having you guys around, and thank you so much for your time with us today. We enjoyed every bit of you being here with us, hear us talk and pour our hearts out, and just breathe and have a platform where we can say things as it is. And I hope you have benefited a lot from the conversation tonight. From myself and the WAMIDO team, we want to say thank you for joining us. Please do well to sign up if you will be interested in the WAMIDO mentorship program, and more information will be sent across to you. From me, Ayomide, the founder of WAMIDO Network, it's bye for now.